Good morning. Happy Monday. It's Monday already. Nobody goes live on a Monday morning. What are we doing?
What are we doing? But here we are.
Here we are. So welcome to Talk About TV. Everyone, if you don't know who I am Michelle Oliver, and I am your host. And on Talk About TV, we talk about all things outdoor experiential hospitality. And I'm here today with Cara Csizmadia. Had to read that, so I say it right. And this is part of Women in Hospitality, a series that we're doing at Talk About TV. And I want to thank you for just jumping on. We didn't really plan this very far in advance, and I really appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, it's great to get to know you a little bit better, which is my goal today, since we hardly know each other at all. But Cara, so share with me a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the outdoor hospitality space, if we could kind of start there. And I know that you've been involved from many different levels. So can you share a little bit about who you are and your journey and how you wound up having all these accolades of today in this new position?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start by saying it was very unexpected. I ended up in outdoor hospitality through zero fault or intention of my own. And it does fascinate me actually that it changed and impacted my life so much, given that that's how that happened. But my now ex-husband and I inherited a campground, his family's campground, back in I started there in 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I was a reluctant participant at that time, but it really quickly grew on me. I was really focused initially in those days on growing and building a interior design career. Kind of my passion and was what I was intending to go into. Prior to that, I had spent a ton of time working in customer service. So I did retail. I was in the food and beverage space for a long time. Ended up in a kind of a management position with a restaurant and bar that actually helped kind of put me through university and do all of those things. So that customer service stuff was a big part of my life for a long time already by then. And I am fairly extroverted, I find. So I enjoy the customer service background because of that stuff. So I pretty quickly at the campground kind of fell into a good groove and started to really love the dynamic and the experience and getting to connect with guests from all over the world who were there kind of for this positive, valuable family experience. And it was a great timing for me. I was having my babies in those years. And so it was nice to have my kids at home with me and be able to have that seasonal kind of lifestyle at that time. It gave me a ton of time with my little kids. So it really fit well for me. And I found I thrived in that dynamic. Fast forward 10 or 12 years in 2019, by this time, my husband and I were separated and he bought me out of the business and he's still there. He owns and operates the park. Our teenage kids work there and are contributors to the family business still. So it's still happy and rolling along. But during those 12 years, I got involved with the association. So we started to see some advocacy issues that really motivated me in my business to start to get involved with the association, because those challenges were impacting my operations and my ability to remain successful. And so I wanted to get involved in advocating for solutions and things like that. And I also had an appetite to meet with other operators and learn from them. And the association was a great way to do that and get that exposure. And so that really was turning point that at the time I didn't know was coming. When I started participating with the association, I could never have anticipated that my life would end up where it is now, but it really did impact things for me, because suddenly I was no longer a campground owner and my life was in a transition phase, and the association offered me a job. And so I started working in the member services role there pretty quickly after that time in 2019. And so I spent the last 4 years working alongside Executive Director Shane Devenish and learning a ton from him. He's been a wonderful mentor for me. And also through that time, getting the opportunity to connect with hundreds. We have about 1,900 campground owner members across the country.
Wow.
And yeah, I have I love that I get to chat with them every day and provide support to their businesses where I can, and also kind of help them with that connection, kind of network stuff that really was the foundation for a lot of my own personal and business growth for years. It's just such a great, I love the industry so much because it is so collaborative and supportive. And the National Association here in Canada was founded by the manufacturer, dealer, and campground groups. And so it, by its very nature, has a very collaborative, supportive dynamic. And I love that very much about it. We all, our boards are very communicative and collaborative together at each of those associations, and it enables us to really advocate for the industry in a way that's very holistic and supportive of, we're all so interdependent on each other, and so it enables us to provide a level of support and advocacy and education and training for operators and all kinds of benefits that have a really whole of industry kind of perspective. And I love that about it. I'm really proud of our association and that work that they do.
Wow. That is amazing. Okay. So much that I want to ask you. First of all, I know it's kind of like, here's the last 20 years of my life. First of all, what a beautiful surprise. I know it was a surprise for you. Like, guess what? You just inherited a campground and now you get to raise your kids. But what an ideal way to raise children. Outside, they get to learn the business. They get to learn social skills, how to serve people. I mean, I cannot imagine a better way. It's wonderful that popped into your life.
I completely agree. I do say my ex-husband's grandfather is still alive and around the business, and I have a great relationship with him. And I say to him all the time, he and his wife completely changed my life. And I think, I was fairly young in those days to have that level of kind of faith in me when I didn't.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm very, very grateful and so fortunate, and absolutely I agree that the ability to raise my kids in that dynamic really has shaped them and shaped our family, and I'm so grateful.
It's wonderful. And I mean, anybody that's ever worked in hospitality, you just know it. Like it's, and people attribute that training to their success in so many other areas. It defines kind of the values of who you are as a person, how you interact with people, how you perceive the world. It's more of a, people talk a lot right now. It's kind of trending, which is a good thing, that we give first, give, and then don't look to get something back, but give first. And that's just kind of hospitality 101, right? Like, how can I serve you? So what a beautiful thing that is. The other thing I wanted to comment on is just the value of the humility that you have when you've grown up in this business, or you've grown a business and you've actually been working at the campground day to day, and then you come into the association. So it's no wonder that it's one of the most collaborative, open-minded spaces where people just want to help and serve. And It's more about collaboration than competition. So a lot of really, really cool things. I am curious if you could speak a little bit to, you said you were really interested early on in the association. What kind of support and help and benefits did you see coming from there? Slash, what were the problems you were trying to solve?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, the very first stuff that motivated me was around learning from other operators. I had, pardon me, a few kind of challenges with my own park and some staffing things and stuff like that, that I was, the seasonality of our business was primarily driving those challenges. And I was looking for unique and creative ways to address them that maybe other operators were doing. And I learned some great tools. You know, a great example was I met with a group of campground owners not long after that, and one of them had a partnership agreement with a ski hill, in our area. And so in the winter, all their staff would go work there. And in the summer, all the staff would work at the campground. So they had this year-round hiring partnership. So they didn't have to deal with like laying staff off and going on unemployment insurance and those kinds of things. They were able to harness the customer service skills of those individuals long term. And that was one of the biggest challenges I had in terms of staffing. And that was a great, you know, just a unique idea that really shifted my perspective on all of that. I didn't have to do this alone. I could get creative and find good partners and things like that. So the primary driver for getting involved was, hey, come meet some other campground owners and chat about the industry together. And that's what got me into the room. And then once I was there, you know, you start both hearing about the challenges that others are facing and realizing like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I have some peers who can empathize and know what this feels like. But you also start to kind of have a broader understanding of the industry and how it's performing. And I also started to learn about some of the challenges that other operators were facing that were then becoming advocacy issues that the association was spearheading to start supporting. So in Canada here, we have had kind of a consistent battle with the Canada Revenue Agency. Maybe battle is the wrong word, but a consistent conversation with the Canada Revenue Agency about their tax classification assessment on campground properties. They have in the past reassessed some campgrounds in this country as specified investment businesses, which classifies them at a tax rate that's 3 times the small business tax rate.
What? Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so clearly
how does that even make sense?
Yeah, it's challenging. You know, those assessments, the argument or the case being made is that some campgrounds are making all of their revenue essentially from rent, and that they're not an active small business. And the challenge there is the qualification to decide that you are an active business is having 5 full-time year-round employees.
Oh my gosh, of course. Oh wow.
Yeah, so we are very conscious of making sure to communicate to officials and whoever we can that our members are operating these very, very active businesses, but they're seasonal. They on average are only open 167 days of the year. And so this necessity for them to have 5 full-time year-round employees, especially in this cases of our smaller operators, can be crippling to them because they're not open, they can't afford it. In many cases, they operate in counties where they're not allowed to be open all year round. And so to have staff and all of it just is this kind of compounding problem. And it's resulting in the potential of a 3 times, you know, a 52%, I think is the last estimate we got, tax rate. And that's really difficult to have any kind of a business plan or make reinvestment into property and do any big projects and things like that, when you're not sure, does the government think I'm a small business this year, or am I a specified investment business, in which case I need, a significant amount more money in the bank to pay my tax bill come tax time. And that's a lot of kind of uncertainty from an operator perspective that really needs addressing. That issue has kind of been on the table with us for some years. And I will say, I do feel our advocacy efforts have made quite a bit of headway on that front. And I think there's a bit of a way to go to get a firm, solid solution on the table, but we're close, and I'm hopeful for whatever support we can get on that front. But we've had a few other advocacy requests as well. We're seeing a huge site inventory shortage in this country. We have a ton of RVs on the road and lots of campers, lots of folks interested in the lifestyle who struggle to access it because they can't get a campsite. So that challenge is, I think, has facilitated our request to really motivate governments to look at supporting outdoor hospitality businesses with, whether that's grant funding or programming or whatever creative ways we can come up with to continue to bolster the tourism activity in our portion of the sector specifically. We also see, alongside, collaborating alongside our RV dealer and manufacturer partners, some positions we've taken with the government to do some work around improving infrastructure inside of our provincial and national parks. A lot of those parks, the infrastructure is beginning to age, and the sites are not necessarily large enough for how big some of these RVs are out there.
Interesting.
Lots of dollars that could be used to improve the camping experience in those places, for sure.
You have a lot on your plate. I mean, I look at this as like so many opportunities, and for Canada, I did not realize that there was, how can there be, like, you hear this kind of thing, you think, how could there possibly be a shortage? There's so much space and opportunity and beautiful places. And so, yeah, you're dealing with a lot of major issues. I mean, that's kind of a barrier for people to even want to get into the space, right? Because it's an identity crisis. Who am I? Am I a small business or not? And it absolutely affects your everything, your marketing, your planning, your operations, how can you just jump in, right? So it's kind of a chicken or the egg kind of looping that's going on.
No question.
A quick curiosity, and I'm going backwards a little bit, but when you first started meeting all these people, right? This was a while ago, and you joined the association. Who makes up the campground owners? Are they usually like one-off owners, like a mom and pop kind of thing? Are there more investors that own multiple campgrounds, or is it just kind of an equal mix of both?
Yeah, so I will say we are seeing those demographics start to shift a little. In those days, the vast majority, 8 years ago or so, the vast majority of our members, of the campground owner members, were mom and pop, kind of smaller operations. Now that is starting to shift. We've seen the last handful of years really a ton of market interest in getting into the business, and there's obviously pros and cons to that, but I would say certainly probably 85 to 90% of our members are still small family run businesses, and that provides a ton of kind of interesting experience and great unique camping opportunities and all of those things because of all that variability between those businesses. But yeah, it can be challenging for those guys to have as big of a voice as some of those investment groups and those kinds of things. I am grateful and proud to say that we do have operations formats across the table. We've got the mom and pop owner who are there every day, and they're the only staff on site, and they do everything from mop the floor, process the payroll and whatever that day, right up to, I've got some owners who maybe visit their park 3 or 4 times a year, but are, they have a great management group in place that keeps their park running tip top while they're not there. And then, we've got some investment groups who own 15 or 40 parks across the country and have, that cool model that allows them to really kind of provide this next level hospitality, almost hotel-like experience in their resorts. And so it's great to see that broad diversity across the board. The vast majority are small businesses.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would guess. And I love that too, because then you've got all these unique experiences and you really got kind of have that, the mom and pop thing, you get to know the people in a different way. Like it's more of a traditional, like how it feels to go camping, right? And I think we need the whole spectrum of all the luxury camping to everything, all of it matters. Okay, here's another thing that I'm thinking about while you're speaking about women. So I work with obviously in outdoor hospitality, but also just coaching with women at different stages of life. And a lot of them start businesses. So when you think of this, and I know you didn't go into it like, I'm going to plan to have a campground. What is the vision for my life? I think I'll have a campground and raise my kids there. I'm exaggerating, but I know it wasn't like that for you. But if there were people, women, thinking outside the box, like maybe they're divorced, maybe they're starting another phase of their life or something. Speak to me a little bit about the business side of it. Would you consider this like an interesting, I don't want to paint the picture here, but I think it could be really interesting. Like there are women doing crazy things when they hit this stage of life, like their kids are grown, maybe they're divorced or whatever, they're forming Facebook groups to move to Portugal. It's like, okay, well, what about moving to Canada and starting a campground? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think perhaps I'm a little bit biased, but some of the most successful and entrepreneurial and unique campground owners I know and whose parks I've visited, and that they are run by single women who have.
Great. I knew there's a reason I was asking. That's amazing, Cara. How interesting.
And I was fortunate enough to be close and kind of grow up in my campground alongside a couple of them who are still, I still count as good friends and mentors, who, in one case, I'll shout her out. I don't even know if if she's on LinkedIn, but Jean McDonald here in Alberta. Okay. She's now, I can't say it for sure how old she is, but she's in her 80s. And she still is at the park every day. And like for decades now, she has been a champion both for her property and making it this incredible destination in central Alberta that families and everyone across the demographic spectrum loves to visit. And she also, has been a champion of the associations. She was heavily involved in Alberta's Campground Owner Association for a long, long time. But as a woman watching that and seeing her successes and her dedication to her guests and all of those things, that was incredibly empowering to me at that time of my life, where I was like, can I do this? Like,
oh my goodness, it's so overwhelming, right? That is so, I love that story. And we'll have to connect with her because this is going live on Facebook and it'll be on YouTube. Wow. You can send her a link or whatever. I feel like I'd love to talk with her, actually. That could be.
She's got some great stories.
Yeah, I bet she does. Very inspiring. What does it take, in your opinion? You said that you've loved watching her create this destination experience at her campground. What does it take to do that? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I think lots of variables play into it, but probably top is just kind of the blood, sweat, and tears equity stuff that someone like Jean has. And there are dozens of them I know in my personal life who are like that, who really live and breathe their park, and it's almost kind of an extension of them, and the level of pride in their customer experience delivery and all those things is probably kind of the top necessity, is being so bought into making sure it's the best it can possibly be. I think that's significant. I also think it takes a fair amount of ability to overcome adversity and kind of take criticism and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Who's offering up this criticism?
Yeah, right. And there's those kinds of things. Having a bit of a thick skin is valuable, I think, between kind of managing staff and managing guest expectation and all of those things. That stuff is a necessity to kind of just get through each of the days and still kind of know that you've done your top best at every turn. And also being able to pivot and do things that are really innovative. Jean is one of the first campgrounds in Alberta to have installed done a big solar panel installation at her park.
Love it.
Ago. And yeah, it just things like that are kind of outside the box that not everybody has kind of thought of to strategize around, but you kind of take the ball and run with it, be a little bit of a risk taker. I think those things are, regardless of your gender, are necessities for this business. And then obviously, the park variables really play into, I know Randy Hendrickson talks about this all the time, playing the zip code and all of that, knowing and using it to your advantage and all of those things. Jean does a great job of that. I know several other operators who really kind of harness their location and where they are as one of their top selling features. Jean has a long-standing kind of family history on where she's located.
Okay.
And the last time I was at the park, they have an old schoolhouse there from, like, she's really kind of utilized the history of her area as yet another kind of attraction. And I think that's a great way to engage guests and focus on your uniqueness. Not everybody has the schoolhouse from 18 whatever,
right,
their property as a campground amenity. So
yeah, it's really interesting. You touched on several points that I just want to comment and ask some more questions. So the thick skin thing is a big deal, and that's true in really running any business. But in hospitality especially, I think it's one thing to have I had a restaurant at one point, and it was like every night a big event, right? But they go home, they aren't there the next morning, and there's so it's one thing to do that. It's like having children that are there for an extended period of time or whatever. But I think, and I love men too, obviously, like men do a really good job, but I think women have a natural inclination. Like, how am I going to share? I work with women a lot on what is your actual vision that you haven't been able to accomplish yet? Because you've been hospitable to everyone else for 30 years, right? So what is your vision and what are your values, and how can you turn that into a business? And hospitality is just kind of a natural fit, honestly. And then your kids can come help out, right? They can come. Yeah. Exactly. So yes, it is, and definitely playing the zip code, and I mean anything that it takes to build that story and then be creative with it, and then all the business side of it as well. So what would you say, because you're in this new position, when did this come about? Like 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah, technically day one of the presidency was June 1st. So yeah, I'm 10 to
Gosh.
12 days in. It is fresh, yeah, for sure.
Well, congratulations, and obviously very well deserved. And it seems like the ideal place for you to share everything that you've learned and really stand up for your own values and advocate for everyone. So what do you have, like a top one or two goals? Obviously, this one with the small business, like that's kind of a big deal, but what are your top one, two, or three goals? Whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, specific to the association, I think for sure that addressing and finally finding a really firm solution on the Canada Revenue Agency challenge is a big goal for me. I think, we've spent a lot of time and resource on trying to advocate for that. And we have no reason to slow down until we see a solution, but I'd love to see one sooner than later. And then I would say, I think we've got, a interesting dynamic in Canada where, some of our provincial campground associations are really strong and robust and have incredible staff and leadership and are doing really cool, unique things. And then we have some smaller provinces who are either kind of more fledgling and just getting off the ground in terms of their association, or who have had kind of limited resources and so have faced some challenges around growth and things like that. So I think providing really dedicated support to those, each of the provinces in the way that best suits them, the really robust, strong areas of the country, Ontario and BC and Quebec, those associations are so well-founded that I see their executive directors as mentors for me. And so the level or the necessity for support and collaboration and things like that, I think from us at the national level looks a lot different than what maybe Alberta or Saskatchewan, whose associations are fairly fresh, need from us. And so being able to really give them that, give them what they need and being able to address it and figure out what that is, I think is the big hurdles. So I think, individualized provincial efforts is a big goal for me. And then I would say probably, I would love to see us get back to a place where Canada is doing an in-person kind of conference convention event for our campground owner industry. I know that it's, in-person events have shifted, the way they look and feel and stuff in the last few years. But I think we have it's a great opportunity both for the association to kind of gather everyone and look at the industry as a whole from a national level together, but also going back to that kind of networking platform and the ability to connect and learn and grow from each other. Given that that's such a huge benefit of membership, I think facilitating that with connection in that way where we're together and focusing on learning and the industry in one place is really great. I'm excited to see that come back on the calendar.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Those are wonderful goals. It's so important, right? Like, I mean, how wonderful that there are all of these associations and at differing levels of development, because that's how we grow and how we grow an industry. And we've got to have all these different mentors and then people we're pulling along the way, right? So, and then the complexities of that, because it's like you've got all these little, not little, but these different provinces and different personalities and different ideas of like what it should be or what's going to work for us, and we're not you. And so even in collaboration, you have to overcome differences, right? And how do we focus on the alignment and where we want to go and all of that stuff. But I agree with you with these in-person relationships are what really bridge all of those differences and help people understand more, just at a more personal level. Like, what do you really want out of this? What are we trying to build together, from the individual to the, the entire country, honestly? And it's no small feat. So you're in a pretty interesting position, and it's really, really exciting. And I send you lots of love and congratulations for that. Is there anything else? I could talk with you all day, and I'm honestly working on trying to be more a little bit shorter, because people don't sit around on LinkedIn all day watching videos like they do on Instagram. At least hopefully they're all out working, and they'll just pop in now and then. But what would you like to share with the experiential outdoor hospitality industry in whole? Is there anything that kind of message or last words you'd like to share? Not last words forever, but just for this moment.
For today, yeah.
For Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
I will just say, kind of on the at the dawn of this new role for me, kind of shout out to a couple of folks who have really been instrumental in my growth. Obviously, Shane Devenish, Eleanor Ham, Dan Murkowski. They've all been incredible supporters of mine, and I'm so grateful to learn from them. I am consistently amazed at this industry and how kind of committed folks are to it, and how much how much devotion they bring to the table every day. I think and maybe this is a bit biased, but at the association level, those folks working in support of their members are tirelessly working. There is so much that goes into these advocacy strategies and marketing campaigns, and so many of the things everything that they're working on is labor intensive and full of commitment and devotion. And I'm incredibly proud to be included among that group. And I think I just want to say that I extend my commitment to kind of rise above and face all these challenges and hurdles, and hopefully attain those goals that I mentioned, and also kind of make all those mentors around me proud, and provide whatever support I can to our industry as a whole. I think it's been a life-changing experience for me to enter into outdoor hospitality industry, and yeah, I look forward to running with it and having a long career and future, continuing to do so in whatever way that ends up looking like. And then, yeah, I will say it's been fascinating to watch and see this shift towards so many women really taking the helm of a lot of these organizations, and it's fascinating to watch, especially, when I first started coming to these board meetings years ago, there was 1 or 2 women in the room, and now a lot of the time it's half and half, and that's a great thing to see. That shift has really been fascinating for me, and I'm glad to be included amongst all of these amazing women, and super grateful to you, Michelle, for reaching out and connecting on this. I'd be happy to chat again in the future whenever you're ready.
Thank you. We absolutely will. I'll see you at the glamping show. That's probably the next time our paths will actually cross in person. But Cara, along with everyone else, I have absolute confidence that you will definitely accomplish these goals that you are setting out to accomplish. And you're also serving as a mentor and a light for so many other people and other women. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here, and I look forward to seeing you in person. And thank you, and have a beautiful, wonderful day. And we will talk again soon. Okay. I'll send you this video you can share with, what was her name?
Jean McDonald.
Jean McDonald. Oh yeah. And I wrote something else that you said, and we'll close out with this because it was just such a kind of, you said it in your Canadian way, but it's like, okay, we're going to close out on this Monday with do your top best at everything every time. And that's from Cara. All right.
It.
Yeah, I love it too. Do your top best and have a wonderful Monday, everyone. Thank you. Bye.